Hello, my loves. Welcome to our first elemental video in the 78 Deep Tarot Study course. If you have no idea what I'm talking about because you're seeing this on YouTube for the first time, hi, my name is Leanne. I'm a professional tarot reader and teacher, and I am hosting for the second time now a free tarot course in the style of a challenge this spring where we in the Leanne Aligned community gather together in the virtual realms to study all 78 cards of the tarot, hence the name 78 Deep. This year, we are focusing specifically on tarot structure. So, I'm going to take some time today, as this is our first official day where we are diving into the card study, to go over our first element, which is the element of air. And we're going to be talking about the element itself as the structure that runs throughout the tarot. I'm going to be talking about what associations come with that. And we're going to dive a little bit into the card that we're all starting with, which is the Five of Swords. One that many of us probably aren't very comfortable with. So, we're going to do all that today. If you are seeing this at a later date and you're like, "Oh, I missed the course, I missed the challenge, I wish I could have participated." You can. It's okay. Whenever you're watching this, there's a link down below in the description for you to go down there and join the free course where you can take yourself through this 78 deep study framework alongside me with these videos. There's a principle, all the beautiful things. So definitely check that out. And if you're joining us before June of 2025. That means we are still doing the course in real time. So we're still going through the 78 cards, and you're welcome to jump in at any point. That will just look like you joined the course down below. You'll get in there, you'll see all the preparatory material. You'll go into the preparatory material, and then you'll find out where we are in the elemental series because it will be the most recently released one. And you can start your tarot study. We also have a really fun group over on Instagram if you want to join in the chat that has been popping up, and it's been so fun to see everyone's deck they're using, what systems they're working with, what journals they're going to document their journey in. It's been really, really fun, and I'm really excited to like officially start the tarot card study because one of my favorite things is seeing everybody's like different cards and the different depictions in the decks that they own. So we're going to do that. We're also going to today talk about, which I forgot to mention in the beginning, we're going to talk about your tarot card order. So if you're joining us for the 78 Deep Challenge, there is an elemental order. There is a card that we are each starting that element with, but the rest is kind of up to you. So I'm going to walk you through the different options in case you haven't decided yet, or you just kind of want to see them in action. We'll dig into that a little bit too. So lots to cover today. This will be a longer video, but this will set you up to go through the entire element on your own. And of course, if you're like, I really would like some support during this journey, you can join us in that tarot group over on Instagram. Send me um, a little DM and I will put you in there. But with all of that being said, let's dive in. So, our first element that we are working with is the element of air. And this is the element of the mind. And the reason that we're starting with air this year, because last year we started with earth, the reason we're starting with air this year is because we are focused on that tarot structure. But we're not just focused on learning the structure, we're focused on really zooming out and challenging ourselves to push past any tarot mindset that we may already have to broaden the scope and the understanding of what each of these cards represent. And you're going to see me do that in real time and go through kind of the different areas of that in our daily reflections when we talk about the Five of Swords. And depending on how long this video is, it may be a separate extra video. So if you get to the end of this video and you're like, wait, we didn't talk about it, it'll be in another video. So the element of air, this is ruled by the swords. And the swords rules the elements of communication, the areas of the mind, and just the way that we think about things, the way that we perceive things, the way that we communicate things. It's how we interact with the realm of the mind, whether that be thinking thoughts in our literal head, whether that be learning things, whether that be actually like communicating things from outside of our brain to other people. And oftentimes, this area, this element, also deals with, of course, those moments where we are interacting with other people, right? Because that is how we interact with our world. There's some sort of communication that's happening that we're working with. So when we look at the swords, because it is the realm of the mind that we're dealing with, a lot of the cards can be quite challenging. I would argue that this is probably the most confronting uh, suit, if you will. And I'm excited to kind of do it first, to be honest, because the whole idea of breaking our minds open, of taking a step back, of stepping into this new expansive way of looking at each of the cards. I mean, what better way to start than with the mind, right? So we're moving through the element of air. I'm going to really encourage you as you go through this study to take it easy on yourself. There are so many things that we can explore within the tarot. And each of us on this journey is at a different point. There are some of you who are just starting out for the first time, like you got your first deck and you're diving in, which I'm so excited about. There's several of you over there in that camp in the group, and I think it's going to be really fun and supportive for my more intermediate students or people who have even already learned tarot with me, not just like in my world, but who've actually gone through courses with me, to be mingling with those of you who are there for the first time and getting excited about that. But anyway, it's a side note. Back to the back to the point at hand. There are so many different things that we can study within the tarot. When we look at the structure of tarot, if you want to learn more about this, I created a blog post for you where you can dive into this and kind of get a feel for the basics. It can be really supportive for you if you're brand new. It will make what I'm about to babble on about make a lot more sense. But when we look at the structure of tarot, inside of the structure of tarot, there are other mini structural systems built into it, other little associations that run through the tarot cards. And the reason that I choose to ask you to focus on the elements for this course experience is because it is one structure that runs through the whole tarot, right? It's very integral to the way that the tarot works. But it's also the system that all of us can relate to. Like we all have experience with the elements. We literally are the elements, right? We are earth, air, fire, and water in our physical existence. And it's also something that we can see running throughout all of creation, throughout all of life, in all of the aspects. So, having that lens through which to view the tarot, of looking at the elements, understanding the symbolism and the way that the energy of each element kind of interacts, helps us understand how energy is moving throughout the cards. And you'll see that as we start to look at progressions of like the ace through 10, or the embodiment in the core cards, there is this aspect of the energy of the element moving, being of fluid motion. And as we get more deep into our relationship with those elements, with the way that they're woven into the tarot, with the way that they interact with each other, and the way that they show up in our lives, it makes it easier for us to take a tarot card out, to look at it, and to really understand what it is that it's trying to tell us about where we're at right now and what choices it offers to us on where we can go from here. And I want to really start with this huge reframe because when we're reading the tarot, I personally don't use the tarot to concretely predict anything. I don't believe that there is one way that things are going to go and that we have zero control over that. Now, the difference between free will and destiny is a topic of conversation for another time. But I don't see the tarot as the end all be all prediction of what's going to happen today. I see the tarot as a look into the choices or the situations that I may be presented with today, the energetic kind of space that I'm in at the moment, and how those two things are going to intersect and where my empowerment, where my choice point, where my sovereignty really comes into that. Because if I pull out, say, the Five of Swords, right, that speaks about conflict with other people or within my mind or XYZ, right? We're going to get into that in either later, probably another video. I don't have to take that as I'm going to have like a fight with someone today, or someone's going to stab me in the back today, or like whatever the generic meaning of that card is, right? I can sit down and I can objectively say, okay, these are the themes that it deals with. Where am I feeling in relation to that theme? And if this type of experience does come into my field today, how can I make the best possible choice for myself, for my inner peace, for my growth, whatever it is, right? This is a very specific example, but I really want to encourage us to focus on looking at the tarot cards as we go in this way. This is why we're studying the structure, because again, like I said, the elements help us understand how the energy is moving through each card. And as energetic beings who are making moves, we really need to know this information in order to have our card readings be empowering and useful and really show us where the expansion is, there the opportunities for expansion are in our lives, and how we can work with that to co-create this epic path that we're on, right? So we're starting with the mind. There's my little spiel. I'll get off my soapbox. Actually, I'm going to take a breath for a second because I did a lot of talking, and take a sip of coffee. So we talked about why the elements. We talked about the mind, the area of air. Let's talk about some of the other systems, just briefly, that are held within the tarot. There are other little mini systems that are related in association to the tarot and function within the structure of it. It helps support the structure of it. And these are things like numerology, because we do have numbered cards. So it's inherently built into the system. And we can choose to look at the tarot in that way where we're reading it numerologically. There is astrology. Each major arcana card is associated with either a planet or a sign, which gives us the elemental structure for the majors, which is really cool. And you'll notice that as we go on and study, I have put the majors into each of their respective elements. So if you aren't interested in astrology, you don't know anything about astrology, no worries. I have done the work for you. When you join the course, or if you're already in the course, you're going to download the 78 Deep card order page right here. And as I said, it's divided into each of the elements, and you'll see within each element the names of the major arcana that are associated with that. There are also astrological associations when we get into interactions of planets in certain signs that have to do with the minors that is way above anything that we're going to touch upon in this course, but it is an option of study for you. There are other structures such as the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, which the Thoth heavily relies on. If you don't know what the Thoth is, there are actually 3 different major tarot systems that are widely used today. I'm going to be talking mostly about the RWS system, or the Rider-Waite-Smith system, because this, in my opinion, is the easiest to learn, especially if you are a visual person like me. It's also the one I have the most experience with, and is the one that is most commonly used in general and reproduced, and has decks that are based on, et cetera, et cetera. Although that is slowly, what I'm trying to say is the other systems are slowly becoming more popular as well. If you're using a different system, some of the information I'm sharing may not be super relevant to what you're doing, because some of the card names are different, some of the suit names are different, et cetera, et cetera. But the elemental structure of the tarot still runs through all of the 3 systems. So feel free to adjust for yourself as you go. And again, this is really outlined in that blog post down below if you want to dive into that. Looking at your cards, you will have already chosen at this point, if you've done the preparatory homework, how you're planning on studying the cards. I'm just going to get comfy here. By that, I mean whether you're going to do it daily, whether you're going to do it intuitively, whether you're going to do it weekly, or choose at random, pick cards that you, aren't very familiar with, whatever it is that you're going to do. If you are choosing to study daily, we're all, as I said, going to start with the 5 of Air, the 5 of Swords today. After that, it's up to you which cards you study when. I'm going to encourage you to kind of decide, at least for the first element, how you are going to choose to study that based on the way that you're going to be interacting with the cards in terms of frequency and all of that stuff. If you are new to tarot, it may be helpful for you if you're just really unsure and you're like, I don't know what to do, to follow the order that I have laid out in the printable. If you want to add a little bit of your own flair to it and bring in that intuitive, fun element that is the tarot, right? You know what? Let me pause here. I'm actually going to turn you around so you can see what I'm talking about, because I'm going to demonstrate this and I can't hold the microphone and do it, and it's going to be holding things up. And let's go down. Let's go down to the table and we'll talk about card order. All right, here we go. This is a better view for that. So let's talk about your card order for your study of the air element. You can just do it this way, however you're going to do it for all 4 elements, or you can kind of switch it up as you go to keep things funky fresh. But when we start out, we're going to, as I said, study the 5 together. So you're going to pull out your deck, and you feel free to do this with me if you want to pause and go get your stuff. You're going to pull out your deck and find the 5 of Swords and set that aside, because that is already designated as our card number 1. On the back here, you'll see that card is already written here. If you're going to do your own card order, we know we're starting with that. Next, if you want to choose your own card order, you're going to go through your deck and you're going to pull out the air cards. Now, this is the Ace through King of the Swords. So Ace of Swords, 2 of Swords, 3 of Swords, all the way through the Quartz up to the King of Swords. And then your 5 major arcana cards that are associated with the air element are the Fool, the Magician, the Lovers, Justice, and the Star. This is 0, 1, 6, 11, and 17. So I have done this already here for ease of not waiting. But again, if you're doing this along with me, you can pause the video, pull these cards out. Okay. You can choose to study them in whatever order you desire. If you want to get a little fancy with it, here are kind of the two approaches that I would personally take. So I'm going to go ahead and take my swords and my Major Arcana air cards, and I'm going to shuffle them all together. And then your first option is to just continue shuffling until it feels right. And then record the order that those cards are in. So you can choose to start from the back or from the face here, and you would record the order the cards are in. So Magician you would study tomorrow, 10 of Swords the day after, 3 of Swords the day after that, 6 the day after that. And this will create kind of a fun, predictive style order for you that's not dependent on you picking a card every day. It's already laid out for you. You know what the order is, and you know exactly when you're going to start and end because you have this beautiful little calendar printable that I made you that you can fill in with the card for each day. So here I have created a printable calendar for you. This is specifically dedicated to the air. There's one for each of the elements. And you would go ahead, choose your start date, figure out what month that is. Start at your start date of that month because as you go on, for example, we're starting in March, we're starting at the end of March. So we're going to have like the last 2 weeks of March and then the next 3 weeks of April, and that will carry us through the whole air element. Hopefully that makes sense. So I would do that, and today's Monday, so I'd be like, okay, 5 of Swords Monday, Tuesday, Magician, Wednesday, 10 of Swords, etc., etc. Okay? So that way you just have a really clean, easy order. You don't have to think about it every day. It's already set out. And you can already start thinking ahead, like, oh, tomorrow is this card or whatever, and kind of be pondering that. That's option 1. Option 2 is to go straight up divination with it, where at every morning or evening or every week or however you're choosing to study these cards, or when, where, you would take the cards that are separated out for the air element and you would draw your card of the day, however you choose to do that. This is probably going to be extra fun for those of you who are new to the tarot or want that like esoteric aspect into it, where we're like actually doing the synchronicity. Although I do find that the synchronicity is powerful when you do that predetermined order that I just showed you before this. So that is all up to you. Either way, whether you are pulling the card to study on that day, or you're predetermining the order, or you're just going to use this and check them off as you go, or do them in the order they're written, or whatever. We're gonna choose a way that we're doing that. Okay. Next, we of course have our prompts. And I talked pretty extensively about this in the preparatory material, and I'm also going to go through this in our example card of the 5 of Swords in the next video. So we don't have to get too much into this, but you will of course need the reflection prompts and your journal of choice, or however you're choosing to document, because as you go and as you pull out each card, you're going to want to go into each of these different areas and kind of pull that information out. And I want to talk about for a second the zooming out question. So this is question number 2. Where is the card in the structure of tarot, and what does that tell me about it? This is that point where we're kind of zooming out, where we're saying, okay, if we're looking at the element of air, what does that tell me about this card? Automatically, I already know that the Two of Swords is going to have something to do with the realm of the mind, because it is air, right? Mind, communication, ideas, perspective. That's what it's going to be entailing, right? Then we look at the structure of where it is in the sequence. We have Ace through 10, the court cards, and the majors. So you would identify, okay, this is a minor because it is the Two of Swords, so it's in the minor group. It's not a court card, it's the second card within the succession. Okay, if we are at that point in the structure where it's air, it's a minor card which deals with day-to-day life, and it's the second one in the sequence. What does that tell me about the card without me even looking at the meaning yet? And this is going to help you begin to get your brain thinking creatively in that artistic reading arena where we're sitting down and we're understanding the structure and what the structure has to tell you, and then how we can begin to interpret it from there. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, I'm going to demonstrate this in the next video, but this just helps us, the structure helps us orient it. It helps us digest it down to its basic components that actually, in its simplicity, allows the meaning of the card to begin to open up as we layer on the different things in our lives, the cards around it, etc., etc. That cards around it thing doesn't apply to this course because we're only doing one card at a time. But as you do your larger readings, as you work with other cards, etc., etc., that will come in to play a factor. Okay. And then, of course, we have the general theme of the story, which we're, again, going to dive into. I should just start the next video at this point, right? But I also want to reiterate before we get started that if you are new to tarot, you don't have to go as deep as I'm about to go or as some other people may be going, especially when we come to the larger story. Because your job at this point is to just get acquainted with the cards, to get acquainted with the structure itself, identifying those different factors. And it may seem boring, right? You're like, man, I get it. Like, it's a minor card. It's the air. We already know it's air. But training your brain to identify those things right off the bat as you start to think about the card is really, really, really going to be expansive for you as you get further down the path. So don't skip the foundational aspect, and don't worry about learning every single thing there is to learn about the card today. This is just to lay a foundation. And then once you have the foundation, or for those of you that already do have the foundation, we either get to add another layer of understanding on top, or peel back the layers of understanding we already have and look at the cards with fresh eyes, which is what I'm encouraging you to do. Okay, my loves. Last thing I want to share with you before we dive into the daily card study example is, I keep forgetting to mention this, I have created these tarot principles for you. If you are desiring to go ahead and document your tarot experience and you don't want to go through the whole pain in the butt that is scanning and cutting and printing and whatever of your own deck that you're going to be using, or you just want some fun imagery of the cards to put into your journals, I have a printable set of all 78 tarot cards from the RWS system. There is a page, and I don't think I pulled it out, but there is a page at the end with the rest of the major arcana and an extra Hermit and King of Swords. So if you wanted to have those extra ones to document your preparatory materials and our guides for the journey, that's there for you. But the printable comes in 7 different colorways. I'm missing one of them. It's pinky. But I thought this would be really fun. This red and blue one is like my favorite colorway, and the one I think I'm going to be using a lot personally. But I think this is a really fun way to get the imagery in there, to have the imagery in a colorway that isn't assaulting to the eyes, especially if you're someone who's not super into the yellow color. And that is available in my shop should you choose to desire to add that to your materials for the course. I'm so excited to be kicking this off with you. I am going to now leave and shut up and go to the other video because I think it's going to be pretty long and you already have enough to watch from me today. But if you have any questions at all, whether that be about the air element, about the course, if you're lost, any of those things, please don't hesitate to either leave a comment or send me an email and we will hopefully get those questions answered for you. Okay, my loves, happy studying. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.